How's it going, everybody? This is Top Driver. I hope you're having another great day, and welcome back to another video. Alright folks, it's time for another edition of Haulin Games, in which in this series I'll talk about all the pickups that I get to my video game collection throughout every month. And for this one, I'm going to be talking about all the games that I got for the month of February of 2023. There's not really much to say in regards to this month's collection. There's been a couple of games that are in here that I've had on my radar for quite some time, but everything else, there's nothing really special about them, so I'll just go over each one of them as if it's just a brand new game to me. But otherwise, we're just going to go ahead and get right into this right now. And we're going to start out as usual with our PlayStation 1 games, and the very first one, this is one of the games that I've had on my radar, is the one that started the Need for Speed franchise. This is Road & Track presents the Need for Speed. This obviously is the very first game in the Need for Speed franchise, probably one of the greatest arcade racing video game franchises of all time. I so love this series, and I've really wanted to get my hands on this one for quite some time. I'm glad that I finally have that. The only Need for Speed game for the PlayStation 1 that I don't have yet is the second Need for Speed, and I'm hoping to get that at some point. But yeah, I've been getting a lot of games for this franchise. I know this, Test Drive, Burnout, and a whole bunch of other arcade racers are very popular, but this is one of those that really hit its mark, and I'm just so glad that I was finally able to get this one. Got a couple of shooters to go along with it. The next one is called Eliminator. Now this one is almost similar to Apocalypse because you're basically a prisoner of war and you're trying to escape while also, like attacking your own enemies and all that stuff. However, it's obviously more into these vehicle or planes, obviously, so obviously it's a little bit different mechanics and stuff like that, but there's a lot more going on in this one. I felt like this was a more enjoyable game here. The next one I got here is called Shell Shock. In this game, you actually play as more of a gang almost, that's really part of a tank crew in which you're really combating terrorism and all that stuff, so you're just going around in this tank and taking down terrorists and all that stuff, so really it's a lot of interesting stuff going on here, especially all the characters in this one as well. I found this one pretty unique because of that. So yeah, it's a really interesting one compared to all the other war-like combat games that are very similar to this one, so I thought this was pretty unique and I thought I'd go ahead and get this one. The last one for the PS1 for this month is called The Game of Life. This was another one of those very beloved board games that was out there in the mid-1990s that really rose into popularity, and just like Scrabble, this one ended up being turned into a video game, and so obviously it was really nothing special in regards to this one, but hey, if they love the board game, you gotta love the video game of it as well. I mean, obviously this will be another one of those games that will be fun to play with friends, whenever they're over, or just having a little bit of fun as well, so definitely feels good to have another game that's really like this. I don't know if there are any other board games out there that are very similar that are released as video games, but if so, I'll do my best to try to add some more of those in my collection soon. That's it for all the PlayStation 1 games for this month. We're going to go ahead and move on to our PlayStation 2 games. Not really much to say about these ones. I mean, they weren't ones that were ideally exciting in my opinion, but the first couple of those, they were still combat games. The first one of them is called Trigger Man. Now in this game, you play as the mentee of a mob boss, and unfortunately your mentor ends up being framed for something that ends up taking place in the game, so you're basically trying to stop a full-blown street war from happening. And so really a lot of chaos that takes place in this one, and I felt like this was really interesting, almost very similar to Grand Theft Auto and all that stuff. The next one after that is called Dead to Rights. It's almost very similar to a noir game. You're playing as Jack Slave, as a cop who's really trying to stop a whole bunch of the underground criminal war that's taking place here. And so this game is pretty much almost comparable to Max Payne, which I've had for a couple of years now, and probably one of the best games of all time. Will I say that Dead to Rights is a little bit better than Max Payne? Yeah, I really don't know. I haven't played too much of the game to really determine that, but either way, it still feels good to have this one in my collection. The last one for the PlayStation 2 is called Gun Club. Now, this is more of an arcade video game shooter in which you really just shoot at a whole bunch of objects, like a whole bunch of animals, a whole lot of objects, like barrels and target bullseyes and all of that stuff. So it's really almost similar to whenever you're at a shooting range and you're just practicing, shooting around just for fun, all of that stuff. This was a controversial game that was released around this time, particularly, for a sense that, even though it says that it's not supposed to be violent, there's still some stuff in this game that really turns off a whole lot of people. But hey, it was still released anyways, and I just didn't really have anything special in my mind, so I thought, just why not go ahead and give this one a shot. Moving right along now to our PlayStation 3 games. Really the same thing here. There's nothing really spectacular in regards to them, but the first one is also another game from the Need for Speed franchise, and it's called Need for Speed Shift. This game was released in 2009 by EA, and really another one of those racing games in which it's more of a professional racing compared to what you usually see nowadays with the Need for Speed franchise, in which it's usual street racing. It's almost similar to Pro Street and all that stuff. So really, it's really good sometimes to see them branch out and go into more of the professional racing arc and all that stuff. Obviously, they were coming off of the disastrous Undercover game that was released earlier that year, so they had to figure out something so that way they can really keep themselves afloat, and really, I felt like they did a good job with this one, but obviously some of their future games would also get a whole lot more reception than this one, obviously, but still, feels good to have this one. A couple more shooters here. The next one is called Sniper Ghost Warrior. I don't really know too much about this game, but based on the looks of it, I do feel like that is a little similar to Sniper Elite almost, so really, if that's any indication, I feel like that this could be a real interesting game here, so I'm looking forward to playing this one when I get the chance. The last one for the PS3 is called Starhawk. It's another futuristic shooter in which you play as Emmett Graves, and you're really trying to save your own galaxy and all that stuff. And to be honest with you, I wasn't really much of a fan of this game. I mean, I feel like that even though there was a lot going on, it was really hard to play at times, stuff like that. But again, it's only early here, you know. I absolutely gotta play this a little bit more just to see exactly what it really looks like. But either way, though, you know, I felt like it was good to try. But again, it's just, it's not really much to my liking so far. Finally, we'll move on to our PlayStation 4 games. There's only a couple of them that I got here, but they're both really interesting ones, and the first one of these is called For Honor. Now, this one's almost similar to Cardinal Sin, which I have for the PlayStation 1, in which really you're just fighting against other people in prehistoric times and all that stuff, but it's all similar to, you know, games like Bloodborne and stuff like that. So I felt like that this was an interesting one to get, and another realistically good fighting game here, but I definitely feel like that it could have had some improvements to go on with that. And the final one that I got for this month is called Maneater. I have no idea who thought this was a good idea to make this game, because this was such a hilarious game. In this one, you actually play as a shark, in which you really attack and kill and even at times eat a whole bunch of people that are going after you, and really just for revenge for the death of your own parent. And I find that really interesting, because usually in most games I would consider myself being the one that's attacking the shark. Here in this one, you're the shark. It really feels like that movie Jaws, you know, in which really you're just going after a whole bunch of people until, you know, you get blown up by the fisherman at the very end of that movie. And I felt that would be a very interesting movie, but this is a really funny concept here, and I'll tell you what, this was rather hilarious to play at times, and so I'm looking forward to playing more of this, and yeah, hopefully eat some more humans to go on with that stuff. Yeah, so really not much else to say otherwise in regards to this month's collection. I mean, I know there were a couple of picks here that I felt like that were really interesting here, but otherwise, you know, there isn't really much to say in regards to this month's collection. I still felt like that it was a good one with the exception of a couple of those, but again, as the year continues on, you know, the more games I get, hopefully more of them will have a lot more meaning and a lot more excitement than the ones that I got so far this year. Anyways, that's going to do it for another video. I hope you all enjoyed it. As always, if you like to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when my latest video is released. Below for future suggestions for all my videos, whether it's vlogs, projects, or challenges, you name it, leave it in the comments below and I'll do my best to make them. As always, follow me on my social media. All the links are in the description below. That's going to do it for another midweek upload. I hope you're having another great day. As always, I hope to see you all again in another video very soon. So long, everybody.